Bite with Lynn Testoni and
Rachel Smith. Hello, everybody. Nice
Hi.
to be in your ears again for another week.
It is a bit strange doing this remotely, Rachel. I usually chat to
I know,
you
because we're
face to
normally
face.
together. I know.
I
It's very odd, but we're sort of getting to grips with Zoom and we're really liking it. I'm using Zoom for everything at the moment. So.
Yes, the whole world
Yeah.
is using Zoom. I hear like somebody on a freelance blog said Zoom is having such unprecedented use that it's even crashing sometimes in the US.
Yeah. They must have had really good infrastructure, to kind of, maybe they preempted this happening, and so they bolstered all their infrastructure because they would have everyone using it. Yeah.
Everyone
But
is
it's good.
using it.
It's so great.
It's so great.
Mm,
So this week we're talking about surviving this crisis because it does feel like a unprecedented crisis, isn't it, Rachel?
Yeah,
So,
and I think we're just sort of getting our heads around it and figuring out what we can do to kind of get ourselves in a better position, and then we'll want to start thinking, getting our business hats back on, won't we? So
yes,
this week,
exactly.
we want to talk a little bit about what you should, or what you can think about doing, just to kind of get into more of a comfortable position rather than feeling that panicky feeling all the time, which I definitely had this week. Did you have that?
Yeah, I did have a bit of a panicky feeling, and I think it just became a bit overwhelming. So I guess
Yeah.
the idea of this episode is to try and stop, reboot, and sort ourselves out, and help hopefully all our listeners to sort of get it all under control again, because it feels like it got out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I mean, what's one positive to come out of this week? Everybody's at home, obviously, and
Yes.
online and reading. So, everybody wants to be reading, don't they? And new content and fresh content and interesting stuff about the virus, and also a lot of interesting stuff not about the virus. So I think it's important to still feel like there's work out there, and that, there's places to pitch, and that you can get work. Do you agree, Lynn?
Yes, I do. I actually think that I'm reading on my computer a lot, and people are reading books and magazines, all sorts of things. And I think you said that what we write now matters. It really does at the moment. So it's important.
Yeah. Yep, hugely. I mean, let's talk a little bit about how this week panned out for us. I think you had a couple of bits of bad news, didn't you?
I did. I had my biggest client sort of put a hold from, they said, a month at this point. So I lost my biggest client, which is actually quite hard to use. It's probably sort of 30 to 40% of my income. So that was quite hard. But, they've only said a month and they want to keep going. So I just have to hope that the crisis sort of passes and we can wait it out. And also publishing has been really tricky this month too, because I do a lot of work for two of the big magazine companies, Bauer and Pacific, and then their sale went through this week, and that's caused a lot of consternation in the business, and also they're on both in a bit of lockdown, and there's a lot of, who knows what's going to happen there. So I find that lack of information a bit unsettling, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some disruption happening with that sale going through, and also a lot of the magazines are freezing commissions. So
yes,
anyone out there, if you work for Bauer or Pacific right now, you're probably getting some emails from your editors, or perhaps not hearing from your editors and wondering, oh my God, what do I do? I think that they are freezing commissions across the board. So
that's what I've
kind of
heard
a scary, it's kind of a bit of a scary time if you get a lot of work from them as a freelancer. I had kind of an up and down week myself. I mean, I lost a couple of pieces of work from an agency that they were commission pieces, but because I didn't jump on them straight away, we were sort of all told as a group of writers, jump on all the pieces that you got commissioned from us straight away, because any clients that have disruption might start to, pull their business. Things. So that happened with a client that I was commissioned for. So I wasn't expecting it, and it was, it was okay. They weren't like massive features that I was losing a lot of money on. So it was fine. But then the agency actually came back a few days later and said, look, we've got another couple of pieces to replace them for you. So that was really nice. But yeah, I also just kind of thought, okay, what can I do that's really proactive? And I was doing lots of interviews this week, and I ended up interviewing the sort of marketing manager of a big health corporate, and talked to her about whether she needed content, and she said send a proposal, and so that was all really positive. I did that, and and I also just worked really hard trying to wrap up existing stuff that was all sort of due in a big batch. And so I haven't really had much thought about what I'm going to do, but next week is going to be my hustling week, I think. Yeah. But I also did other stuff to try and feel better about my finances.
Yes. Well, I did keep a few of my smaller clients, and I have a regular 1 day a week job at Pacific. I guess that's still under question, but at this point it's still go ahead. But I did also chat to one of the people I meet regularly in the dog park who works in construction, and she's often said how much content they need, because we talk about these things while our dogs are playing. And she said her business is still doing well. We were chatting from a safe distance this week. And so I emailed her, and she's actually putting my name forward for some content. So, and they're really busy at the moment. So construction at this point is still going ahead. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's just those little opportunities, isn't it, that you've got to jump on.
You do.
Yeah, I kind of, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I've often thought about emailing her and never did, but this week I just thought I've got to do it. So.
Yep, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, there's stuff that you can do. I know a lot of people who've been, suddenly losing work and thinking, what can I do? What can I do right now to kind of get myself into a better position? And for me, the first thing that I did was ring my bank and pause my mortgage for a few months, which was surprisingly easy. I was like, wow, I should do this all the time.
Well, it is unprecedented at the moment, isn't it? What's happening is so different. And I think you said it just took one less thing to stress you out, didn't it? It took it off the table. Yeah.
It's definitely a big weight off my mind, knowing that is taken care of for the next 3 months. And even if I'm bringing in less money, I can sort of perhaps manage the rest of the bills that come in. So that was good. But there's other ways that we can sort of, I mean, if you've got a redraw, have you got a redraw?
Yes, I've got a redraw facility, and I thought about it. I never touched that. And then I thought, well, that's what it's there for. It's the emergency fund. And I thought, I don't need to use it yet, but I thought, I'm going to be prepared to dip into it because we can survive this, and I think I can survive quite a few months if I think about it. And I thought, actually, instead of panicking, I just thought, no, that's what it's there for, and that's what. And also the other thing I have before, if my tax bill, which is always my perennial problem, is I can speak to the ATO about getting a payment plan. So that'll be my biggest expense in the next month. Is my quarterly tax, PAYG, and the BAS and stuff. So I thought, okay. But I had a chat with a friend, and she said she knew that she's always paid a bit more than she needed to on a mortgage. And it occurred to her that she could probably go down to the minimum payment. She didn't know what that was, but she rang the bank and she found out it was $250 a week less than what she paid.
Wow.
What she's paying now. So she said she can realise that if things got tougher, she can pull back to the minimum, and then she can manage. It's a lot less stressful, a lot lower target for that.
Yeah, I've done that too for years, like paid kind of quite substantially over the minimum payment. So when we put the mortgage on hold, just something to think about. I don't know if all banks will do this, but we were told if you're going to pause your mortgage, you and you want to take money out of your redraw to live on, which is what a lot of people are having to do, including us, you need to do it before you pause it. Otherwise, it freezes the redraw.
That's a
that
good
process.
Yep.
Yeah, so just have a think about whether you need any of that money before you pause your mortgage. Otherwise, you won't be able to access it.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
And I do... And I also listened to a webinar that Rounded, who's it's your accounting software. They sent it to, and my accountant happened to be on the webinar, and she and they had a different experts. They had my accountant Holly, they had somebody from a super fund, there's somebody from Rounded, and somebody from an investment sort of company, and they talked about lots of strategies, and I listened to it, and I found there were a few good things. They also, one of them actually suggested going through your last bank statement line by line and asking yourself what you really needed and what you could cut, and just, you know, being really honest with yourself. And I thought, well, that's
how depressing.
depressing.
Do I really need that delivery of wine every month?
Yes. And they also talk, there's a lot of discussion because one of the provisions the government's putting is that you can dip into your super, and they weren't keen on that, but unless you had to. It was a really last resort because they said, don't compromise your financial future. And there's also lots of conditions. I know my husband looked at it and he wasn't eligible. You've got to be not earning a lot of money. There's quite a lot of conditions before they do it.
I totally agree. I think that would be my last resort as well. We've talked about doing it. Not mine, because mine is so like minimal, but my husband has a bit more super. So if we're really desperate and this drags on longer than, you know, we think it will, then it might be an option. But it really is a last resort, isn't it?
It is a last resort. But also it's good to know these things. Like sometimes you think, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, if the worst happens, this is what we can do. So you feel like you've got a plan. And therefore that, as long as you know you've got some sort of backup or some sort of fallback system, it's not quite, then you just have to get on with it.
Yeah. And, I know that a lot of businesses, because a couple of clients have mentioned to me that there's heaps of sort of things coming through where they don't have to pay tax, or their tax is credited back to them if they have employees and that sort of thing. And it makes me wonder if, you know, sole traders are going to be told they don't have to pay tax. Wouldn't that be nice?
We can wish. There are some good websites. Actually, the Rounded one had a great summary of, we might put links in the show notes, of all the different provisions from the government. But really, I think you should speak to your accountant before, because honestly, by the time this airs, it could have changed.
Yeah. That's right. And I haven't listened to that webinar yet. It's on my list to listen to it. But it'd be great to know, you know, if there were going to be anything subsidized for us or any provisions like that made. So
I think there are a few things, but there's different conditions, and you really, to speak to your accountant, because it might change. But there are, one of my accountant did say that there's a few things you may be able to do, especially if you employ one or two people, before you do this BAS that you're putting in now. That's for the existing one, for the March quarter. So before you put in a BAS or your quarterly income, is probably a good idea to check what's available, because there's a couple of provisions in this last quarter.
But you're right, it is changing like at the speed of knots, isn't it?
It is.
So stressful just keeping an eye on the news. Actually, we had that down. We were going to talk about how you kind of, you know, mitigate the stress from the constant changing news, and you know, are you glued to it, or do you try to, you know, pull back a little bit? What do you think?
I think as journalists, we just like to know everything, and we tend to read excessively. And I think that it's so easy to get stuck there. So I've been trying very hard not to do that in the morning. I'm actually doing nice things. I'm exercising most mornings, clearing my head. And I tend to make myself a really nice breakfast every day. That's part of my routine. And I quite like that. And also somebody suggested, which I've done, there's this lovely new Facebook group that's come out called The Kindness Pandemic.
Oh, I love that group. Yeah, it was Lindy. Lindy suggested it to me. Yeah, it's a great group.
It is. And so reading, it's all lovely stories of kindness in this particular time. And it's actually quite a nice thing. So when you get depressed, looking at all those horrible news stories about terrible, you know, things happening in Italy and the US, and it's quite a nice antidote to read that sort of thing.
Yep, absolutely. I think we should talk. I know we're sort of going over time a bit again this week, but we just wanted to quickly talk about how, you know, there's a lot of us out there that are probably entering what feels like this really epic slow patch, and that's something that we've written about a lot on the Rachel's List blog, how to get out of slow patches, what to do when you're stuck in a slow patch and get things moving again. And I read this fantastic post by Brooke McCarthy from Hustle and Heart, who was one of our speakers at the Visibility Masterclass, actually. And I just found it, I have to say, I don't know if you've read it, Lynn, but I found it so refreshing amidst all the doom and gloom. She's a super proactive person and has just been writing posts.
A lovely person.
Yeah, she's just been writing these great posts saying, everybody up and at 'em, get out there and start hustling and that sort of vibe. And I think she mentions in that slow patches are a gift. And I totally agree with that. I just think they can be a real opportunity to sort of take a breath and look at your business and look at the big picture and do all those things you don't have time to do. And, I think as well, they can sort of help you refocus and look at those relationships, or even start creating new business relationships, stuff that you don't really have time to do when you're freelance and you're go all the time and it's just deadline after deadline. So you're working on your business rather than in your business. Isn't that the kind of term people use?
Yeah, and I think that's quite true. This is the time if you think, I've got to fix my website, I'm going to set up that newsletter, or you're going to redo a template somewhere, or maybe you're going to finally spend that time looking at that webinar to work out how to, use MailChimp or Zoom or whatever it is. So trialing all those things this is the time to do it. All those things that you always meant to do.
And we're going to talk a bit more, aren't we, next week about what you need to be doing right now to get back into that hustling mindset.
Yep.
But we should just mention briefly, like if you're starting to do that this week and that's on your list for the coming week, I mean, everyone's feeling still that kind of panic a little bit, aren't they? No one really knows what's going to happen and how this is going to unfold with clients and corporates and small businesses. There are a lot of people out there that are thinking, well, this is a great opportunity for us to work on our marketing and get those freelancers in to do stuff that we don't have time to do, or work on our content calendar or that sort of thing. But I don't know, for me, I have to be in the right kind of mood in order to send emails to people, or do a proposal like that one I put together, or even get on the phone and do cold calling, or talk to clients. Do you think that you have to be in the right mood to do that? Do you feel that, Lynn, or can you just bang out those LOIs and get them out there and
I think look, normally I don't have a problem with that. You just get in the mindset and I'm quite focused. But this week has been hard. I think hard finishing. I've got a bit of work on for the next couple of weeks, and it's been hard really working on it. And also, like you've probably found it, doing any work is difficult because nobody's answering my emails or my phone calls. But so this week has been harder for me than it's actually probably ever been. But I think you're right, being positive, I find just clearing my head, even just going outside, walking around the block with the dog or something, and coming back and then just sitting there being positive. Yes, it does make you more inspired, and it just makes, or maybe reading something that's a bit positive. I've also listened to some nice positive podcasts, nothing recent, some older ones. And I think that's been good because it does help, because if you don't want to sound desperate, and I think that can come over on the phone.
Yeah, I agree. I think in that post that I just mentioned before that Brooke wrote, she wrote something about dressing well, which I had a slight giggle about because, as we all know, I basically live in active wear. I think I put a dress on for the master classes, and probably that was about it for the year. But I find if I'm comfortable in my active wear, I can, and I'm comfortable, feeling comfortable, feeling good and all of that, I'm much better at doing my hustling process. But also for me, and I know this won't appeal to a lot of people, but I also find that if I get into the mode of meditating in the morning, like even just 10 minutes, if I can get away from, my kid and just have 10 minutes on my own to do that, I'm so less anxious about the process and talking to people and, putting myself out there. So that's my little thing that seems to work for me.
Oh, I think that's true. And that's like I've said, I'm sure bored everyone to tears with how often I run. And certainly my run comes back, I feel really good. And I try and do all my best work and all my most positive, any sort of emails I do when I come back from the run. And if the day starts wearing me down, that's when I start doing other stuff.
Yes.
So when I'm feeling really good, I sort of go with it, I guess. And of course, you know, I don't own track pants. I try and wear nice clothes. I don't do the pajama thing. I do get dressed I wear jeans.
Oh, I'm not in my pajamas. I don't think you could call a nice pair of, yoga pants pajamas.
But I do wear activewear, particularly because I often start the day with Pilates, and I'm doing Pilates. My Pilates studio is still going via Zoom, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I know. I think that's one thing that has actually gotten me through this week. Is actually, again, I want to say Zoom because I think that's been a real lifeline. I've gotten to chat to groups of friends on it where you have the little grid gallery thing going, which is really cool. And I've also watched my kid have his first ever Zoom class on, where he got to see his mates after not seeing them for nearly 2 weeks. And he got off and he said, "Mum, I loved seeing all my friends on the computer." And that just completely broke my heart because I thought, oh my God, kiddo, you're probably going to be seeing them on the computer for the next 6 months.
Yes.
But, Zoom play dates are in my future. But it's good. I mean, that has given so many of us a lifeline and made us think, well, at least we can stay connected in that way. And
exactly. I did a virtual book club on Wednesday with
Zoom,
which was quite fun, where we all discussed the book. And I've done 3 Pilates workouts this week on Zoom. And my 17-year-old was amazing this week. She's doing her HSC, and I have to say we were so proud of her. She took to online learning really well, and she's been really focused. It's a big year for her, and we were so proud of how well she's adapted. And I guess we had a lot of underlying stress because it's her HSC, and she's just been amazing. And so I think that took a little pressure as the week went on, as she adapted, and that was really positive, actually. And she's a digital native, probably like your son, although he's obviously a bit younger. But she's quite comfortable with sitting in front of the computer and doing all this stuff on Zoom. She had, she's been great.
Oh, I think you do notice how much the kids are into it, and so much more sort of digitally minded, I suppose. We've been doing workouts that are for kids.
Yes.
And so I've got a friend who's a CrossFit personal trainer, and she's put on Facebook Live workouts for kids at 11 a.m. every day. And I know there's also another one called PE with Joe, where kids can but this Facebook Live thing is so cool because I can drop a comment on it, and her kids will say, "Hey, Charlie," and wave, and they wave at the screen. Wave to each other so it's live, and that is just amazing. They're all working out together in this cool way. And there's a couple of other ones that I want to try next week. I think Nike is doing free workouts, which I haven't looked at, but there's so many. So we'll try and put some of those in the show notes as well, just if you're kind of thinking, well, I can't get out.
Nike does, because I run with Nike. That's all free.
So that could be really cool. And also, obviously staying in your Facebook groups or dropping in and out every so often is
because they've got
my mental health.
The Rachel's List Gold community and also Freelance Jungle that I'm a member of are both lovely Facebook groups, and they've been really wonderful and supportive communities this week, and I've loved seeing everyone supporting each other. It's been really nice.
No, that has been nice. Look, we better
We're way over.
We're way over, but before we go, I just wanted to mention, if you are thinking of hustling and this coming week, and you want to, get some of your, start monitoring your letters of introduction or your cold calling, whatever, we've got a fantastic lead generation tracker that's really new in the toolkit, and we're giving away 5 of them. And all you need to do to get into the draw, which we're drawing the winners on Wednesday, the 1st of April, you just need to leave a comment on our latest blog post. So just go to rachelslist.com.au/blog, and the latest blog post, jump on it, leave a comment, and you'll go into the draw.
Fantastic.
Anyway, You've gotten to listen to our dulcet tones for 20 whole minutes or more.
Fantastic. That's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And
Thanks
we'll
for
see you
listening,
next
everyone.
week. Okay.
Yeah. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.